Imagine living in a world where bread was so expensive that people could barely afford to eat, while the king and queen of your country lived in a palace filled with gold, throwing banquets that cost more than an entire village earned in a year. Sounds unfair, right? Well, that was exactly the kind of world that led to one of the most dramatic and game-changing events in history, the French Revolution. Today, we're diving deep into its causes, its most shocking events, and the lasting impact it had not only on France but on the entire world. And trust me, once you hear this story, you Lions realize how a hungry crowd of ordinary people managed to shake the foundations of an entire kingdom. So, let's set the scene. It's the late 1700s in France. The country is beautiful, but it's also broke. For years, France had been spending huge amounts of money on wars, like the 7 Years' War, and even helping America in its fight for independence. That's right, the same country that would later go through its own revolution had actually funded another one across the ocean. But all this spending left France drowning in debt. And who had to pay for it? Not the king, not the nobles. It was the ordinary people, the farmers, shopkeepers, and workers who carried the heaviest tax burden. Society in France was divided into 3 estates, or groups. The first estate was the clergy, the church leaders, who held great power and wealth. The second estate was the nobility, the rich nobles who owned land and lived lives of luxury. And the third estate, that was basically everyone else: peasants, merchants, artisans, and even professionals like doctors and lawyers. They made up almost 98% of the population, yet they had almost no say in how the country was run. Imagine being part of the biggest group, doing most of the work, but still treated as if you didn't matter. That's the frustration the common people were living with. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. While the majority of the population struggled to survive, King Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette, were living in the magnificent palace of Versailles. Picture golden halls, endless gardens, and parties that lasted for days. And while people in Paris were hungry, the queen was rumored to have said, "Let them eat cake." Even though historians debate whether she actually said that, the phrase became a powerful symbol of how out of touch the royal family seemed with ordinary people's struggles. So, when food prices skyrocketed due to bad harvests, the people had had enough. Bread wasn't just food, it was life. Imagine if suddenly the price of rice, or pizza, or your daily groceries doubled overnight. You'd be upset too, right? Well, in France, anger boiled over into action. In 1789, King Louis XVI called a meeting of the Estates General to figure out how to deal with the crisis. This was a gathering of representatives from all 3 estates. But here's the catch: each estate got just 1 vote, which meant the clergy and nobles could always outvote the common people, even though the third estate represented nearly everyone in the country. Frustrated with this unfair system, the Third Estate broke away and declared themselves the National Assembly, basically saying, "We represent the people now." This was a bold move, and it set the stage for a revolution. The spark truly ignited on July 14, 1789, when angry crowds stormed the Bastille, a prison in Paris that symbolized royal authority. It wasn't just about freeing prisoners, it was about sending a loud and clear message to the king. The people were done being ignored. The storming of the Bastille is now celebrated every year as France's national holiday, much like the 4th of July in the United States. From there, things moved fast. The revolutionaries pushed for change, demanding freedom, equality, and a say in government. They wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, a powerful document that stated all men are born free and equal in rights. This was a radical idea at the time, shaking the very foundations of monarchy and privilege. But the revolution wasn't all peaceful speeches and declarations. It turned violent, especially during what's known as the Reign of Terror. Led by figures like Maximilien Robespierre, thousands of people were executed by the guillotine, including nobles, political rivals, and even King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette themselves. Imagine the shock of seeing a king and queen, once seen as untouchable, brought down by ordinary citizens. It was both terrifying and groundbreaking, and while the reign of terror eventually ended, the revolution left a huge mark. It didn't just change France, it sent shockwaves across the globe. Monarchies everywhere grew nervous, realizing that ordinary people could rise up and demand freedom. The ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity, the motto of the French Revolution, inspired future movements and revolutions in other countries. Of course, the revolution wasn't perfect. After years of chaos, France eventually fell under the rule of Napoleon Bonaparte, who crowned himself emperor. But even then, the revolution's ideas lived on. The concept that people have rights, that governments should serve the people, and that inequality can be challenged, those lessons reshaped the modern world. Now, here's something to think about. If you were living back then, do you think you would have joined the revolution, risking everything for change? Or would you have stayed quiet, hoping to survive the storm? It's a tough question, and it makes us realize how brave those people were who stood up against unfairness. The French Revolution teaches us that when people come together and demand justice, even the mightiest systems can fall. It shows us the power of unity, the danger of inequality, and the importance of never losing touch with the struggles of ordinary people. And today, as we look back, we can see just how much the revolution shaped the values we often take for granted: freedom of speech, human rights, and equality before the law. These weren't gifts handed down by kings or nobles. They were won through struggle, sacrifice, and determination. So, next time you hear about freedom or equality, remember the story of the French Revolution and the people who dared to dream of a fairer world. If they could change history, maybe we can too in our own ways. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through history and want to explore more fascinating stories about the past, don't forget to hit that like button. Leave a comment sharing what surprised you the most, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more videos. Together, we'll keep history alive one story at a time.